Good evening and welcome to Logistical Nightmare. Round 5 of the Championship takes us to Snetterton in Norfolk in England. I'm Tom Kent in the commentary box. We are underway for qualifying for a 45-minute lap race. Double points on offer. And this could be the location that decides the championship. And in regards to that, Jazz is 10 points clear over second place Dave, with McSandy another 50 points adrift in third position. Now, in order for Jazz to clinch the championship, he would need to be ahead by at least 60 points over Dave in order for the championship to be wrapped up tonight. But there's always Imola next week for him to wrap it up there. But if he gets a really strong result this evening, then Jazz has got one hand on that championship trophy at least. We've seen drivers on their outlaps. We've got 13 in the lobby. Thankfully, we've got a lot of the championship contenders still in there. We've got Bass, who's not realistically in the running. Bass is currently 8th of 124 points. He's out of the championship battle mathematically. Only one of the top 6 can mathematically win the championship. So Dancy, Clay and Checo have got with it all to do tonight. They need to hope that the likes of Jazz, Dave and McSandy hit trouble in the race for them to take advantage. This is the race where they really do need to take advantage. So Bass is on the flying lap, and we'll go on board with him. As he makes his way through the left-hander of Agostini. And now this is him heading towards Hamilton. Rising the curves, and that was a nice exit actually. And now this is the right-hander of Oggies. On the power. And the right-hander of Williams. Looks like someone's the tyre stack there. And looks like it's been knocked out of the way by someone in the background. So that's one less worry for the drivers. But I think that will be put back in for when the race does begin later on. So through the Bentley straight before you break down into third gear for Brundle. Now does Bass slow the car down in time for Nelson? He does. Now for the right-hander of Bomhol. 150 kilometers an hour. And now Coram. And then the left-hander of Murray's. Now the centre straight to conclude the lap, and this lap time of Bass will be a 1 minute 50.6. I'd imagine he'll go for it again and get an improvement done. Improve his position on the grid. Here's Popcom coming through, and his lap time is a tenth slower than what Bass has produced. We've got more cars heading over the line now. McSandy goes top for a second before Skype beats him to that. 1 minute 49.2 for him. So he is a long way clear at the moment. Dancy has just started the fast lap. Jazz is coming through Palmer. He's also on a lap. This is Checo. He will be the next driver over the line to complete a lap. So we'll stay with him. Checo, who had a poor time of it all in Alton Park last week. He's mathematically still in the hunt for the title, but he needs to win and misfortune his rivals. As he comes out of Murray's, he's on the centre straight. And where does this put Checo? I'd say maybe around about where McSandy and Bass are. He's beaten them by 0.8 of a second. He goes third fastest behind Sky, who's second, and Dave, second in the championship, goes top. Now, what about Jazz? How is he getting on? Well, he's coming through Nelson now. Took him quite a bit of time, actually. Although, it feels like an eternity when you go around the first part of the lap before you get onto the Bentley straight. I mean, the previous configuration before the changes in 2010, I believe it was. It used to be where the Montreal hairpin is. It used to feed you back onto the Bentley straight away. So it was a lot quicker of a lap back then. But now it feels more like an eternity getting through the inner section of the circuit. And Jazz goes third fastest with a 1:49.4. And Sunday has improved to second fastest now. So the track is evolving and the lap times are improving. We've got Gary in the McLaren heading over the line. What is this going to improve here? Well, he's improved his time, goes up to 9th place. We've seen a tyre stat being kicked up on the Bentley straight. Hopefully it doesn't come back onto the racetrack. It's on the edge of the circuit, so it should be okay there. So we've got Rizzler, who's yet to set a time, likewise for Messi and Defiant. I would say we're looking at around a 23 lap race. The conditions are going to be a lot worse than the conditions we've got here, so I think 23 laps at most is what we're looking at for a 45-minute race. It could get damp and it maybe could get dry later on, but I highly doubt it. You can see the weather radar on your screen as to what the forecast will be in the next 10 minutes or 30 minutes. So Rizzler heading over the line for his first time in the session, over 7 seconds off the pace. And it looks like, just looking to see who actually crossed over the line. Messi's gone 9th fastest and Defiant's gone 12th on a 1:54.4 by the looks of it. And look to see who else is on a lap. Bass is crossing over the line again. Is this going to be an improvement? It is. No change in position though. So he stays where he is in 8th. Potcon looking to improve. He's 9/10 off the pace. Can he get closer to the provisional pole sitter? The answer is no. Behind him is the number 66 of Mitsandi. Don't think he improved that time. Well, Skype most certainly has. He's gone back to provisional pole. As we watch Dave, who seems to be touring round there. He's not going very, very quick, so he may just be giving himself some space for when he does go for his last run. This is going to be his last run, most certainly, because we're less than 2 minutes away from the checker flag falling. Bass and Messi have done their laps. Jazz is on a lap. Got the 777 of Checo coming through Coram. And now for the left-hander of Murray's. We've got a wind speed of 15 kilometres an hour, which is quite... not fast, but it can affect how a driver turns into a corner as Jazz goes over the line. Only 5th fastest... sorry, Checo goes 4th fastest, going in front of Jazz with that lap. And who else is on the lap also? Well, Dave is on the lap, presumably. Rizzler is coming over the line now and does not improve his lap time. Defiant, does he improve on his lap? He does. He goes 11th with a 1:53.2. As Jazz does not improve in his lap time, but he's got one more attempt at it. And we've got Dave, who I think he's on the Bentley straight at the moment. McSunday going for pole at the moment. He's got one more attempt at this. He'll get over the line before the checker flag falls. And this lap of his does not see him move up. And Sky has extended the gap now. 6/10 clear over Dave. He will be coming up behind the 22 of Gary. Gary is on the lap, I think. This is the pair. Head down the straight. over the line, and Gary does not improve his time. Dave has ducked into the pits, so it looks as though pole position could well be going to Skype. So who's the next driver over the line? Well, it'll be Checo. I don't know if he's on an improvement on this lap. Here he comes. Is this going to be an improvement? It's an improvement in time, but not an improvement in position. So Checo is set to start 4th on the grid unless others improve. Got the 37 of Defiant coming through. I don't know if he's kept his car on the circuit on this lap, but we'll see. I assume he has done. And this is going to be an improvement in time. Goes 10th fastest. Jazz over the line. No improvement from him. 6th only. Sunday is next in the Bentley. Sunday is nearly 9/10 off the pace at the moment. Can he maybe get onto the front row ahead of Dave? It's crucial that he does that. No, he can't. No improvement. So Sunday will start 3rd on the grid. As it stands, this is Dancy. He's looking to improve on his time. Does not improve. And it's only 7th quickest for him. So here's your grid for the race. We've got Skite on his return to Logistical Nightmare, returning by putting his car on pole position ahead of Dave. McSunday 3rd. Checo and McSunday and Checo are next in 3rd and 4th, followed by Popcorn and Jazz. Dancy and Bass make up row 4, followed by Messi and Defiant. Rum, Gary and Rizzler round off the grid. So 45 minutes lie ahead of the drivers. We are around about 2 minutes away from the start of the formation lap. So there's some time to maybe run through a few things about Snetterton whilst we are waiting for the cars to move off. And for your information about Snetterton, I mentioned it's located in the county of Norfolk, which is where Norwich is located, in the country of England. And it's played host most notably to British touring cars every year, British Formula 3, British GT, and the British Superbike Championship. There's other events that happens as well, for example, like club car racing and all that. And the circuit owned by Motorsport Vision, that is run by the former Formula 1 driver Jonathan Palmer, who raced in Formula 1 in the 1980s, racing for the likes of Tyrrell, Ram, and other teams concerned. And of course, believe it or not, Jonathan Palmer is the only ever 3.5 litre normally aspirated championship winner in Formula 1 back in 1987. And not to mention that his sons, Jolyon and Will, have also raced in motorsport. Jolyon making it to Formula 1 with Renault for nearly a couple of years after he won the GP2 series in 2014. And his brother Will has also competed in the junior category. His last appearance in motorsport was the GP3 series in Barcelona in 2018, before he hung up his helmet to focus on his studies at the time. I wonder what he's up to nowadays. That's something which I'm sure people like myself would know about. We're on the way for the formation lap. 13 drivers take off the grid. We've got one that's stuck on the grid at the moment. I think Ram is actually going to be started from the pit lane. So we've got 12 lining up. We've got one that'll be starting from the pit lane. And then this 45-minute race will begin. It's a long lap, is this course, for GTs anyway. This is a GT3 model. And the circuit itself, the Snetterton 300 circuit, as it's known as, is 4.7 kilometres long, and the race lap record is currently held by the former Sauber F1 driver Felipe Nasr in a Dallara F308 in British F3 in 2011 with 1 minute 39.9. So what will we see from the likes of Dave, McSandy and Jazz? Because they're in the running for the championship. Sky obviously is not. This is his first appearance this season. We've seen from him in the past in previous championships in Logistical Nightmare, particularly at the back end of last year, that he can take the fight to the front runners. So it'll be interesting to see how the likes of Dave, McSandy, Checo, Popcorn and Jazz keep up with him. As far as I know, I don't know if there's any mandatory pit stops involved. I don't think there is, actually, because if there was, next to where the numbers are for the drivers, 13, 1, 2, 9, 66, etc., there would usually be an orange marker with the number 1 next to it, which means they've got a mandatory pit stop to make. That is not the case here, so I would imagine it's going to be a 45-minute sprint to the checkered flag. And don't forget, double points are on offer, so if there was a time to pick up a good haul of points, this is the race to get them. Now the Snetterton circuit that was opened in 1951. It has an FIA Grade 2 licence, so it would not be able to host Formula 1, unfortunately. It's a brilliant racetrack. It's a challenging one for the drivers, it has to be said. It's hosted some brilliant races in British touring cars, with the battles involving Jason Plato, Matt Neal, Gordon Shedden and all those. I think even Jonathan Palmer had his little shenanigans with someone in 1991 in British touring cars, which wasn't too long before he took a career with the BBC. So we've got the drivers raring to go then for the starts of this race. 45 minutes it is. Who will lead into the right-hander of Rich's first? And we are underway now. The green flag is shown and we are racing. Sky will lead into turn 1 first. He's got the inside line ahead of Dave. So he leads out of there. And we've got a car on the grass there. That looks like the... Oh, and they've got a spin at the back as well. Who's that? That's Tom Red. That's not Jazz, is it? It is! That's the championship leader. So Jazz has gone for a spin already in the Ferrari after just one corner. So he's down to 12th place. He's got a long time. So there's a long way to go yet in this one, I should say, for him to catch up. But as far as the championship is concerned, the advantage is now with Dave. He's currently in 2nd place in this one, which would be more than enough for him to take the lead in the championship going into Imola. And in fact, with Jazz down the order, if Dave was to finish 2nd, that could possibly be enough for him to clinch the championship today. Because remember, double points is today. Next week, it's just the normal point system. So Jazz has got a bit all to do now to keep his, not just his championship lead alive, but his title hopes alive completely. But as I've already mentioned, there's a long way to go yet. So Sky leads, Dave is 2nd in the Mercedes AMG. Then it's the 2 Bentleys of Checo and McSandy in 3rd and 4th places, followed by Popcorn in the Aston Martin in 5th, and it's the 3 Bentleys of Dancy, Bass and Messi in 6th, 7 and 8. Defiant 9th, Gary 10th, Riesler in 11th, and it's Jazz who's down to 12th. Ram, who started from the pit lane, is at the back in 13th place. So the drivers heading through. Dave looking to keep up. He knows there's no need for him to take any risks at this stage. There's a long way to go yet. Now, as far as the weather's concerned, there's no rain for the next 10 minutes. Now, if we do get rain, that'll obviously prompt some drivers to come into the pits. Where and when it would fall, well, that's not going to be so easy to predict, is it? So Jazz is 3 seconds behind Rizzler. Just needs to pick them off one by one. If he gets into a spin again, he'll lose more time to the leaders up front. I suppose the saving grace for him is that there are only 11 cars ahead of him and not 16 or 17. So Jazz closing up behind Rizzler. As they've gone through the first sector, and Jazz is close to within 2 seconds of him. Go back to the leaders. This is Dave, who runs wide on the exit of Williams. And that's going to allow Checo to close in on him. So Checo having a better time of it all so far tonight in comparison to last week. He had a nightmare at Alton Park, as I've already mentioned. This is payback time. But even third place wouldn't be enough for him to keep his hopes alive. He's got to hope misfortune hits Sandy and Dave. And given Skyte's genuine pace, he's another one to look out for as well. And he's already opened up a lead of more than around about 2 seconds over the others. So riding the curves, exiting Murray's onto the Southern Straight, and this is Skyte completing the second lap. And this is going to be a 2 second gap, I believe, over Dave. It's very close to that anyway. So Checo behind in third place. Don't appear to have too many moves being done. And that's Jazz off the track. And he's got damage. You can tell by the state of his bonnet, or the front end of his Ferrari. He gets by Gary. I think it's had a coming together with him. So Jazz has lost even more time. And to make matters worse, he's got damage to his machine. And that won't help one bit. So he's through into 11th position now, at least. This is Sky leading. At least he can move up a number of places in the championship. If he was to win this race, he would get 120 points, which could see him jump as high as 10th by the end of this one. We're still around to go. Hopefully he'll be around for next week's finale at Imola. So Danzy's right behind Popcorn here. I think he might have just got past him. No, he hasn't yet. So Danzy still behind. Bass and Messi keeping up. As Defiant is dropping back all the time at the moment. Well, Jazz is still trying to find a way past Rizzler at the moment on lap 3. He'll get into the slipstream. Now Rizzler is of course battling for position with him. He does not have to just let him by. There's no blue flags involved. But Jazz looking to the outside, I'm able to do the switchback, puts Rizzler under pressure into a mistake, and that's paid off for him. So Jazz through, no problem, into 10th place. So we've got a race on our hands at the moment. Dave on course for 100 points. At the moment with Jazz in 10th. Now 10th place would get you a total of 20 points normally, which would be 40. But if it was to remain like that, Dave would have a 50-point lead going into the final race of the season. I think someone's gone off the track at turn 1. What's known Richards? Oh, we've got plenty of cars off the track. So Rum's gone for a spin. Gary's off as well. And it looks like Rizzler's had a moment. And what's happened there, I don't know. There must have been a collision because there's no reason for Rizzler to go as slowly as he is doing. Very strange that's happened there. At least Jazz is not involved in that this time. So there's no change at the front at the moment. The best battle on track we're going to see very shortly is between Defiant and Jazz for 9th place. So Bass is closing in on Dancy for 6th position. 2.5 seconds is the gap between first and second. Sky gradually pulling away. All these run wide on the exit of Murray's. That's going to allow Dave to close back in a little bit. He'll have better speed than the the Lexus all the way down the straight, which will help him gain a little bit of time on it. You can see the gap is back down to 2 seconds to what was 2.5 in the previous sector. And this is Jazz trying to get past Defiant. He'll have the better exit out of Murray's. He'll go side by side with it, but will he be ahead by the time they get into Richards now? We've already had a collision there at the beginning of the race where Jazz spun round. We had a collision involving Ram, Gary and Rizzler on the previous lap. Now, does Defiant leave Jazz enough space? The answer is yes, and Jazz is through no problem. So Jazz has picked off another car. The next man ahead of him is Messi, who's dropped back horribly from Bass. So it won't be too long before Jazz gets onto the gearbox of the Bentley. So we're on lap 5 of the race now. 8 minutes in. And Sky continuing to lead, managing the gap. Doesn't need to push too hard at the stage. He knows there's a long way to go. And possibly the weather could intervene as well, not to mention. So Jazz will be coming up behind the Bentley of Messi soon. So this is the battle for the lead. Sky continues out in front. And looks like Checo's closing in on Dave a little bit. He's definitely keeping up. Mick Sunny's keeping up as well. Popcorn is trying to at least. And all of this is good news for Mick Sunday at the moment with Jazz, who's now in 9th position. So Mick Sunday, who is on course for 36 championship points, make that 72 with it being a double points round here at Snetterton. He'd still be behind Jazz in the championship. Remember, he was 60 points behind him coming into this round, but that's going to be cut down for sure. Now, Jazz at the moment is on course for 44. Mick Sunday is on course for 72. So there'll be a reduction of 28 points between those two drivers, which would see the gap cut down to 32 points. So it still leaves Mick Sunday with a fighting chance. Having said that, Dave would still move into the lead of the championship, and the gap will be even bigger than that. So Mick Sunday has to try and get in front of Checo if he can, and also get in front of Dave to keep his realistic hopes of the championship alive. But bearing in mind, Jazz is coming back through the field. He's already got past Messi for 8th place. I think Mick Sunday actually would be out of the championship running, because if Dave was to get 100 points in this race and Mick Sunday only getting 72, the gap would increase to 80 points. So he needs to finish ahead of Dave, does Mick Sunday, and at the moment he's 2 places behind him. Now, if Checo was to get in front of Dave, that will play into Mick Sunday's hands nicely, because that way he can attack the Mercedes AMG. As Sky completes another lap, still only 2.2 seconds in front, so it's not a comfortable lead, but it's a commanding one. So Checo thinking about a move. Will he go to the inside into Montreal? Not quite. Sits behind. Thinks of a better line. Can't quite do it on the exit there, so he sits in behind Dave for now. There's Jazz, 14 seconds behind Bass, with a slightly wounded Ferrari. Messi's into the pits. He's clearly picked up damage on the bonnet there. Now, will he keep going, or will he decide to call it quits? I hope it's the decision of continuing on, because you do get a lot of points in this race. And this is also Messi's first race this season. So Sky on lap 7. 2.3 clear by sector 1. Now, will we see Messi come back out onto the circuit? I'd like to think we will do. He may as well. I think Jazz's chances of victory in this race are more or less gone, but you never know. We've seen the pace from him in the past. He's already won 3 times this season. He won both races in round 3 at Donington. He won the second of the 2 races at Alton Park. And he's definitely off. I'm just seeing Checo. Oh, they're coming together. That's Dave and Checo coming together at Murray's. So the drivers who are running second and third in this race have come together, and Checo's into the pits, and so is Dave. Both of them have damage, it seems. Well, that's going to change the picture in the championship for sure now. This is played into Mick Sunny's hands and also Jazz's. So Mick Sunny through into second place, and it looks like Jazz is going to go, well, Jazz is already ahead of them now into 6th position. So Mitsandi, who's now on course for 100 championship points, if Dave continues to fall down the order, Mitsandi will be ahead of him. Well, this is played more into Skype's hands as well, but he's not in the championship race. And Danzi, who was in 4th place in the championship coming into this round, 104 points off the lead, who at the moment as it stands he would still be out of championship contention, but could be in the fight for 2nd or 3rd place. Probably 3rd place, I would say, is his best target if he can get a good result here and another good result in Imola next week. Well, I can tell you that Dave and Checo have come back out onto the circuit now. Dave has rejoined ahead of Gary in 8th. Checo, I believe, has dropped behind Rizzler. Is it Rizzler? No, it's Ram. So Ram is in 10th place now, Checo in 11th. And Checo's 6th place in the championship is under threat from Popcorn. And Popcorn is now in 3rd place in this one. So at least Dave and Checo are not completely out of it. I think I can say one driver who's definitely out of it. I think that's Messi, because he's stuck in the pits for over a lap. And it doesn't look like he's going to be moving again. And Rizzler is also in. He had that coming together earlier on, didn't he? And he wasn't going at a particular race pace. It looks like his race could well be run, to be honest with you. So I think actually Rizzler has exited his box and he'll be rejoining the circuit, albeit a lap down. So at least Rizzler is still in the race. Messi doesn't look like he's going to be continuing on any further either. So there's Dave struggling to get his car through Nelson. We've already passed 15 minutes of this one, and Dave's championship hopes are beginning to diminish unless he can respond. He's currently 8th at the moment. Jazz is in 6th. Now with McSunday up there now in 2nd position, which would net him 100 points. Jazz, who's in 6th place, is seemingly on course to pick up a total of 26 championship points for a single race, that is, so that make that 52. So Mitsandi would close in on Jazz by 48 points. He was 60 behind him coming into this race, so he'll be 12 points behind Jazz. And the fact that he's ahead of Dave now as well, who's in 8th, as Messi confirms his exit by retiring. Ram is in the pits. Again, he's got damage to his bonnet. But going back to what I was saying about Dave being in 8th place, he would just working it out for myself actually. So 60 points for a win, 50 for 2nd, 42 for 3rd, 36 for 4th, 30 for 5th, 26 for 6th, 22 for 7th, I mean, realistically anyway, I mean, Dave and Jazz will still be in the hunt for the championship, as will next Sunday, but I can work out what the gap is during the course of this one. There's plenty of time to go yet, and plenty of time for everything to change. And I'm not sure if Ram's going to choose to carry on, to be honest with you. We'll find out in a moment. So Sunday's 7 seconds off the lead at the present moment. There's nothing you can do about Sky ahead of him, and Checo, he's not getting it. I think he's made a mistake somewhere on the previous lap or the lap before, so Checo not having the best time of it. As Ram exits the pits in 12th place now. So reviewing the points system, so 60 points for a win normally, it's 50, 42, 36, 30, 26, 22, 18 for 8. So Dave in 8th place would get 36 points from this race, which would see his points total increase to 388. Jazz, who is in 6th place, would see his score increase by 52 points, so would move on to 414. And Mitsundi, who was on course for 100 points, move up to 2nd in the championship with 402. So we've got a three-way battle for the championship going into the last race of the season at Imola, which should make for an interesting one. As at the moment, Dave really needs to get a move on and start recovering from where he is. I mean, getting past Defiant would be a difference of 8 more championship points. If he can do that, he'd move on to 396 points. And the next one ahead of him is Jazz, who's catching Bass. So Dave needs to get a move on now for sure. Nearly 20 minutes into this one. And there's 25, and there's 25 more minutes to go. And it looks like Popcorn is closing on Mitsundi actually. I wonder if has Mitsundi lost time on this lap. I think he has. If he's lost a little bit of time, and Popcorn is closing in on him. He's running wide there, so is something wrong with Mitsundi's car, I wonder? Keeps running wide a bit too much. So Jazz will be in the lead of the championship going into the final round, albeit by 12 points over Mitsundi. Now remember, Mitsundi missed the opening race of the season at Monza, so if it wasn't for that, it would probably be in the lead of the championship by now. And to my understanding with the points score, the lowest score for the drivers gets dropped after this season. So what we get from today is fine because we've only done 5 of the 6 rounds, but after Imola we lose the lowest score for each driver. It sounds complicated. It's the way the championship works in Logistical Nightmare. So Mitsundi behind Portland. You can see Dancy closing a little bit as well. And the gap between Define and Dave is, well, it was less than 6 seconds when they crossed over the start-finish line. It's a lot less than that now. I think it's going to be around about 4 seconds by the time they do go through Sector 1. It's 4.2. So Dave's taken 1.6 seconds out of Defiant's margin ahead. So Skype leads, 11 seconds clear of Mitsundi, still on the threat from Popcorn and Danzy. And we've got Bus in 5th position, nearly 7 seconds clear of Jazz. This is Defiant, and behind him in the background is Dave. And he's closed the gap down to 3.2 seconds. He's taken another second out of his margin in Sector 2. So air temperature of 16 degrees C, track temperature of 19 degrees C. And the wind speed has dropped from what it was in qualifying earlier. It was running about 15 kilometers an hour. It's now dropped to 1. So the gap is 2.3, just under that, between Defiant and Dave. So I'd imagine Dave will pull a move off on the Mercedes AMG on this lap. You can tell how much quicker he is. He comes through, and looks like Popcorn may have dropped back a little bit from Sunday in Sector 2, but it looks like he's closing in, judging by the times. And Dave running wide there, pushing as hard as he can. He's got the gap down now to 1.1 seconds. Is he going to have a go on the Bentley straight? So a couple more corners before they do get round to that. And looks like the BMWs run wide there as they approach Oggies. And there's Williams, and Devine opens the door for Dave to go through, and Dave's through before they even get to Williams' corner. So Dave is through up to P7. That's another 8 championship points coming his way. So he's now on 396. So he'll be 6 points behind at Sunday as it stands, and 18 off Jazz going into the last race at Imola. Now, the difference in points for a normal race, that does not apply. In fact, Jazz is in the pits. So Jazz feels that a pit stop is what he needs. Now, that could change things. He was running in 6th before he came in. He's a long way ahead of Dave, actually, so might not have anything to lose with this pit stop. But Dave is coming through the last corner of Murray's now. Where is Jazz going to rejoin after this? He's probably going to rejoin behind Dave and Defiant, isn't he? Or maybe not. Well, Dave is ahead of him. Can Jazz get out in front of Defiant? The answer to that question is not quite. At least he's on brand new tyres now. The drivers don't have to make a pit stop in this one. We've seen a lot of the drivers, including Jazz, Dave, Defiant, Gary, Checo, Brisler and Ram. In fact, most of the field have made a pit stop in this one. Could it make any difference? Well, Sunday won't want to be pitting in because he'll end up losing at least 3 positions if he was to do that. So he needs to stay out there in second place. He's in a good position at the moment. Just needs to keep Popcorn and Dante behind him. I think any chance of him catching Skite is pretty much out of the window at the moment. But the important battle we've got now is that Dave, who's in 6th place, he's on course for another 8 championship points, which will move him onto 404. And with Jazz down to 7th, he's lost 8 championship points from where he would finish. So he'd be down to 406 points. So as it stands, with the positions as they are, have a listen to this. Sunday would be on... In fact, no, we'll do it in championship order. So Jazz will still be in the lead of the championship on 406. Dave in 2nd on 404. Sunday in 3rd on 402. Just 4 points separating those 3 drivers as it stands with the positions as they are. This is Bass, who is in the pits, in the Bentley. He should rejoin ahead of Dave. He's left his box now, so he should get out, no problem. And there's Rizzler, who's a lap down. Dave in the background, but Bass is already exiting the pit lane. So Dave remains in 6th place, and Jazz, who made a mistake at Nelson, has lost ground to Dave on this lap. What a fight for the championship we've got on our hands as it stands. There's no team's championship. Oh, that's a car off. Is that Ram, who's gone off the racetrack? It looks like he's hit the barrier as well. He went off at quite some speed. But he's back on track now. If I was saying, I'll just get to the check if I can get some good, useful points. I mean, 12th place, considering it's a double points round, would get you a good haul of points. Sunday's still holding up Popcorn. I think Danzy's dropped back from these two, so I think Ram may be coming into the pits as he picks up damage from that off. Now he's continuing on. But he needs to be careful not to get in the way. He's already been in trouble for that this season, remember, at Monza, where he took out one of the leaders. I can't quite remember who it was, but he rejoined into the path of Cucuzzo at Lesmo. As Popcorn has entered the pit lane from what was third position. So he should get out in front of Bass. And it looks like someone's gone off the race. It's Ram gone off again. It has. Ram's off the racetrack. He's trying to get himself back out of there. It's not somewhere where you want to be heading to. It's a long way behind everyone else anyway. And there's Popcorn rejoining in 4th place now, and with a clear track ahead of him. So he's a long way ahead of Bass, who's coming into Riches. Dave in P6, Jazz in 7th behind Rizzler. Defiant a long way back. And there's Checo, who's running in 9th place, having another torrid afternoon. It was looking promising for him at the beginning of the race, but not quite so now. So Skite is running in P1. 17 seconds clear of Mitsunday. That's how dominant he has been in this one. He's about to complete his 16th lap. I think as it stands, with the way the laps are counting down, by the lap times, I think this is actually going to be a 25-lap race if Skite continues to go at the pace that he is doing. So far in this race, only the top 3 have not pitted. How effective will the new tyres be for those who have? I think most notably Popcorn, who is trying to close down. There's Ram ahead of him, who I just hope does not hold up the... Oh, he's gone off again. Aston Martin. And Dante in the pits from 3rd place. And I think the drivers are making pit stops. I wonder if Mitsunday and Skite are going to do just that later on. So Dante will rejoin the race now. That was a very quick stop, actually. He'll rejoin ahead of Popcorn. I think he's going to complete an overcut on him. But he comes out of the pits now. Is he ahead of Popcorn? No, he's slowing down there. Look, he did that to avoid making contact. If I was him, I'd have been going a lot quicker than what he was doing. I suppose he's on cold tyres, but why did he have to slow down that much? He could have just floored it. So he's allowed Popcorn back through into 3rd place now. So Skite continuing out in front. Not having to worry about battling with any other drivers. Mitsunday's continuing to drop back. And looks like Ram is back in the pits, and I think this is for good this time. So that could well be his race run, unfortunately. So Sunday into the pits. So I think actually, given, even though it hasn't said to me, or I haven't been informed that there are mandatory pit stops, I think we are going to be seeing drivers making mandatory pit stops in this race. So Sunday is in. Now, he needs to make sure he gets out in front of Popcorn. He's the man that he's battling with, and there's Dancy right behind as well. He's done his stop. He's off the jacks by the looks of it. He's away from his box. And Popcorn hasn't even made it to Murray's yet. He's now done so, but Sunday's already at pit exit. And he's going to rejoin in 2nd place, a long way ahead of the Aston Martin. So Skite is the only driver left in this one yet to pit. And you can just see Jazz, who's right behind Dave now. I think Ram has exited the pit lane. Hopefully does not hold up Jazz as he's coming through. Riches, he stays out of the way, thankfully. I think he's dropped back from Dave as Jazz. So Sunday on course for second place. He'll have a chance of the championship going into Imola for sure. And then if the positions were to remain as they were, it'll be 4 points separating the top three, which means it's winner takes all at Imola. And Skype continuing on for another lap. He runs wide through Riches, which won't do the car any good. Looks like Gary's ahead of him. Now, bearing in mind the lowest dropped score, well, potentially the lowest dropped scores for the top three in the championship. Well, Sandy's missed one this season, so that is actually very good news for him, because the lowest score for each driver gets dropped at the end of the season, whereas Dave would lose 7 points, and Jazz at the moment, if he was to finish in the top two in Imola, he would drop the 42 points he gained at the first race at Monza. So he really does actually need to get a move on and improve his point score at the moment. Although he's running in seventh place, sorry, Jazz would be collecting 44 points. So that would not be his lowest score. The lowest score would be 42, should he beat that at Imola. So Skype completing his 19th lap. He's coming up behind Gary. And Checo has already got past Defiant now into 8th position. He's a long way behind Jazz at the moment though, is Checo. 18 seconds behind, in fact. And Gary running wide through Palmer just to stay out of the way of Skype, who is in a league of his own, it has to be said. So we've got a battle for third place between Popcorn and Dante. Dante potentially on course for 4th place in the Drivers' Championship. His best result of the season has been 2nd at Monza. What about the battle further ahead? I think Sunday's obviously is pitted. I wonder if Sky is aware of the fact that does he actually need to pit? I wonder how much time Sunday's gaining on that. Well, Sunday's best lap of the race so far is a 1:49.2. His last lap was a 1:50.0. Whereas for Sky, his best lap has been a 1:48.6. His last lap is just put in as a 1:51.6. I think there's a slow car ahead of him that's been in a little bit of trouble. Defiant is in the pits. I don't know if he's actually pitted in this race. He may not have done, but let's drop down the order anyway. Well, the gap at the moment between Sky to Sunday, I can't really tell, because the thing is, when they go through different sectors, which is where they are, it doesn't quite give you the gap of which you really want. Sunday's crossing over the start-finish line now. That hopefully that will give us an indication as to where each driver is in terms of the gaps. And I think Sunday, he's saying he's 15 seconds behind, but he's definitely not 15 seconds behind. He's got to be a long way behind that. So it'll be interesting to see how Sunday's doing on new tyres. He won't be troubling Sunday when he won't be troubling Sky when he does come in for his pit stop if he does. Seven minutes of this race remaining. I think potentially we're looking at a 24, maybe a 24. No, it'll be 25 at the moment. But if Sunday comes in for his pit stop, which he doesn't do on this lap. And we've got a battle on for third place between Popcorn and Dancy. This is an interesting one. Now, if these two come together, that could have a difference to the championship. So Popcorn needs every point he can get to close in the battle for maybe 5th place in the championship, which is looking good for that at the moment because Clay's not in tonight. And with Checo down the order in 8th, it's very much possible for Popcorn to gain what is set to be 84 championship points from this race alone. So we've got Sunday in 2nd place. What was his lap time at the end of that one? So his last lap time was a 1:49.6 for Skyte. His last lap time was a 1:49.4. So he's actually a couple of tenths faster than what Sunday had posted last time around. Now Ram is 4 laps down on the leader, so I'm not sure if he'll be able to keep hold of his position. He may do actually if he unlaps himself from Sky, because he's on fresher tyres than the Lexus is, provided he can keep his car on the racetrack. And so Sky, does he pit in this lap? The answer is no. So it may well be next time around if he does that. Let's leave it until the last moment. So this is an in-cockpit view from Dancy's car as he looks to keep up with Popcorn for the final podium position. He's on course for his best lap of the race so far. His best lap is a 1:49.3. Touches the grass though, which won't help. Keeping his car to the inside through. Through Murray's, and didn't quite get the exit I think he wanted to have done. And he'll still be on course for his best lap of the race, which is a 1:49.6. So he's doing a fine. It's a 1:49.3, I should say. So pulling out all the stops at the moment. Dancy as Popcorn looks to go defensive. As these two continue to dice for 3rd position. We're just a few minutes away from the end of this one. When it does get to 0, or when the clock reaches 0, whatever lap the leader is on will be their final lap of the race. At the moment, Sky will be on course to do 2 more laps. Is he pitting this lap? No, he's not. He's staying out there. Now, if he is told to make a mandatory pit stop in this, he must do it before the race is over. And I think the next lap is going to be where he does it. So Sunday may think about, he does need to push actually because he's a long way behind Skype, but if Skype decides to not pit, will he be able to keep that victory? That is something of which the people who are responsible for the rules of Logistical Nightmare to make me aware about. So it looks like Popcorn has pulled away from Dunsey. And Skype is almost coming up to lap the 777 of Checo, who's running in 8th position. And it looks like Dave, has he got past Bass? No, he hasn't yet, but he's right on his tail, and this could change the picture in the championship. If he was to pass Bass, then Dave would move into the lead of the championship. This could get interesting now. Now, does Skite pit in at the end of this lap? Now, I haven't been told that there is mandatory pit stops involved in this, but I could well be wrong. Everyone else has pitted. Does Skype do the same? He does pit in. So at the last moment possible, Skype is into the pits for his mandatory pit stop with just over a minute remaining. Now McSundy's only just coming onto the Bentley straight, so he won't be troubling the leader at all. So Skype just needs to make a quick splash and dash with the tyres and possibly fuel to get to the end of the race. See how desperate he is to actually leave his box. And he's already crossed the line, or has he? No, he hasn't. He's left the box now, and we'll get over the start-finish line before the checker flag falls. So there's confirmation that the leader is on the last lap, so this is the 25th and final lap of the race. Skype rejoins in the lead as Mitsundy comes down the centre straight. He looks to lap Defiance. Popcorn's pulled away, and Dave has got past Bass. So Dave is through past Bass into 5th place, and that move is significant because Dave, with that move being pulled off by him, he'd move into the championship of Logistical Nightmare by collecting another 8 points. So from where he was earlier, as Bass goes off the racetrack, Dave would move into the lead of the championship by collecting 60 points in this race and move on to 412. He'll move into the lead by 6 points over Jazz. And with Bass making that mistake, I think Jazz is probably too far behind to get ahead of him. So Sky 9 seconds ahead of McSundy. So the field come through. Well, Sky is heading through Brundle and now Nelson. And the checker flag will be in sight ahead of him. So Sky, on his final lap, on his return to Logistical Nightmare, is going to take victory in style. Through Murray's for the last time, onto the centre straight, and it's Sky in the Lexus. Celebrates already, and he wins here in Snetterton in the LNR. Fantastic job from Skyte. He takes victory, no problem, by 10 seconds over McSundy, who keeps his hopes in the championship very much alive with 2nd place. And in 3rd, it's going to be Popcorn, who holds off Dante right to the end. A podium place for him, with Dante in 4th. And it'll be Dave, crucially, home in 5th. Ahead of Bass. Jazz will be disappointed with 7th. He didn't have the best qualifying and he didn't have the best start to the race, and it got worse for him later on. But at least he's going to score points in 7th place, and then it's Checo in 8th. And looking at those further behind in the standings, well, Dancy's 4th place, which gets him 72 points. That moves him on to 330. He's out of the running for the title, unfortunately. But his chances of finishing 4th are looking more likely now. So Jazz comes home in 7th, Checo 8th, Gary the last on the lead lap in 9th, Fine down the lap in 10th, Rizzler 11th, and I think Ram should get his 12th place finish, no problem. So there's your race winner. It is Skite in the Lexus. He moves up into the top 10 in the championship table. Or puts himself in the running to finish in the top 10, maybe even higher than that, depending on how others do at Imola. But he'll celebrate this victory long into the night for sure. Very well done to him. We've got a showdown, a 3-way showdown for the championship at Imola. So there's your race result. Sky wins with Mick Sandy 2nd, and it's Popcorn and Dante in 3rd and 4th. Dave into the lead of the championship by finishing 5th, Bass 6th. Jazz dropping to 2nd place in the standings. He came home in 7th place today. Checo 8th, Gary 9th, Defiant 10th, Rizzler in 11th, and Ram 12th. Messi was the only driver to not finish. So as far as the championship is concerned, Dave is now on 412 points, Jazz in 2nd on 406, and Sunday in 3rd on 402. So just 10 points separate the top 3. And remember, after we've raced at Imola, each driver's least score gets dropped. So in terms of who this favours the most, it could well favour Mick Sandy the most because he missed the opening round of the season at Imola. So he, from what looked like he was going to be the outside favourite, he could now well be the favourite to win the championship. My goodness me. It's all to play for then at Imola. Do make sure you like and subscribe so that you are aware, and not forget the championship decided at Imola this time next week. I'm Tom Cairns, and I'll speak to you again soon when the Logistical Nightmare returns.